technical explanation show. As you can tell, we got a little bit different of a setup today. We have 3 guests today. We got Vanessa Oswalt, Brian Nicola, and Mark Niemann. And today we are going to talk about women's wrestling. But before we get into that, I want you to meet all of our guests. So we're going to switch views here. This is the first time we've done this, folks. Hope it works out. Vanessa, do you want to go ahead, please?
Yes. Hi, I'm Vanessa Oswell. I am one of the assistant wrestling coaches at Untitled Orange, and my primary focus is working on building the girls wrestling team. I'm also the Ohio High School Wrestling Coaches Association girls representative, and then I am also the Wrestle Like a Girl Sanction Ohio Task Force chair.
Awesome. It's a lot of good stuff. So there's a lot of good stuff to talk about. Hey, thanks for making time today for this.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Next up, Brian, a little bit about yourself, please.
How you doing? I'm Brian Nicola. I'm one of the assistant coaches at Orange High School. I coach the girls team with Coach Oswalt and another gentleman, and Pat Doherty. I've been coaching for a while, maybe like 96. And girls wise, outside of coaching, which is, our primary focus with our girls, is I'm the NWCA girls rep for Ohio. And then here in the Central District, I am the girls rep also. So it's a great group. Having a lot of fun.
Awesome. And he said Central District, which leads us to our next guest, Mark Niemann. What's up, Mark? Hey, I saw that Traveler record in your background, by the way. Awesome record, right? And Stapleton, maybe?
Oh, yeah.
Right. Go ahead. Sorry, man.
No problem. I am Mark Niemann, and I have none of the credentials these guys have. Holy smokes. I don't know where to begin with that. I do some work with the Central Ohio, the Central District, with a buddy of mine. Together, we're inside the circle. We're a Central Ohio-based entity that we just want to promote the kids, promote programs, and if there's anything else we can do, we want to do that as well. I'm a huge fan of the sport, and for not having much success, it really has it grabs a hold of you. You know what I mean? So I'm a huge fan of the sport. I'm a huge fan of the merits of character and determination, all those things. The merits of the sport really grabbed a hold of me, and I see the importance of it now, which obviously is 20 years too late, 25 years too late, but I can pass it down to my kids, or I do help out at a local high school, and I can pass it on to those guys.
Hey, what high school is that?
I help coach at Licking Heights High School.
Awesome. Hey, thanks. Never too late, right? You can always, that's why we're doing this now. You can make a difference still at any time, right? Whether it's the athlete, coaches, and officials, anyone's life. Maybe someone listening to this podcast, who knows? But I want to go back to Olentangy Orange, because it sounds like we've got a little bit of synergy there. Brian, can you tell me, it sounds like you've been around there the longest with the program. Can you tell me a little bit about the program there?
Yeah, we were, I coached at West High. When I graduated, I coached a couple of places in Dayton and then at Watterson as I was kind of figuring out what I was doing. And then I was the head coach at West High School for 5 years, and then Bishop Reedy for 2 years. And I came up to Orange in 2008 when the building opened, and I was the boys head coach, and stepped down there in 2015. So then I started to, I just kind of pieced. I was pretty chill about it. I mean, I missed it, of course, and I watched a ton of it, but I thought I was done. And then in end of 18, I got on the mat a little bit in 18, and then early 19, I know Vanessa I'll let her tell you about it. There was a meeting of the minds, and I started to hear about that there might be a girls tournament. We had a girl in our boys program at Orange, real tough, national level girl, Taryn Martin. So Taryn and I started just talking in the school. We had a meeting. Bunch of girls showed up. A bunch of girls kept showing up all spring. I knew Vanessa from, she was friends with a girl that I coached at West, maybe, how long ago? 5 years, right? No, about 20 years ago.
You don't need to say all that.
17 met, and I knew her a little bit through that, knew her old coach, and got in touch with her. And then she started coming down, and we hooked her that summer. I think by the time it was fall, she was with us for at least part of the season. So getting Coach Oswalt in the room. We've had good numbers both years. I think our numbers this year are going to be stupid. We've been recruiting really hard, and it's starting to pick back up. I think we're going to have really great numbers, and we're really starting to see some athletes. And we've always had athletes coming out. That we're not just starting to see them, but girls that are like stars in other sports are starting to be okay with taking a chance and saying, hey, this is worth, rolling the dice on. I want to see what I can do. So it's a lot of fun. They're good kids. That's what's happening at Orange High School.
That's awesome. Hey, Vanessa, do you care to jump in where your part of the story and Brian's intersect there?
Yeah. So, well, I first met Brian back in what was it, 03, 04, when when I was on the Ohio girls national team. And then back in 2019, we met in the spring with Dom DiSabato. And there was a whole bunch of Jeff Martin, the Shores, Castros. They were all a part of this meeting where we were just brainstorming on how can we get this going. And Dom came up with a really great idea. Let's get a girls' state tournament. We kind of mirrored how Michigan did theirs and started with a state tournament and grew it from there. So we sat down, came up with the logistics of how we are going to run this tournament. The Coaches Association has done amazing with it. I'm now a part of that Coaches Association, and everyone, whenever I've been a part of these meetings, they're just 100% on board, supportive. So we had the girls' state tournament for the first year, and it was amazing. I was so jealous I couldn't compete in it. I was like, I want to be in this tournament. And then this past year we did a qualifying tournament. We did districts and then state, and the quality of wrestling just in that 1 year leap. I mean, I didn't expect it to be that big of a leap, but it was, and it's amazing to watch it.
It is. As a spectator and not as a coach, it's amazing to see how much it's just grown so quickly. You had mentioned the Coaches Associations behind it. And they're big supporters. That's accurate, right? That's what you said?
Oh yeah. Okay. They host the tournament. So.
I knew that. Yeah. I just wanted to make sure I got my facts right. I think that those coaches, those folks deserve a shout out. I know you might forget someone, but some of the coaches that are on there that you've been working with, care to drop some names?
So to start, it was Dominic DiSabato, where he's now one of the past presidents. Dean Conley, Shawn Andrews has been such an amazing support and advocate for girls wrestling. I mean, he built a big team of his own where they ended up winning the girls' state tournament.
They're great.
A lot of these guys have just been great advocates. Back when I was wrestling, I thought about the different coaches, and sometimes you just felt like maybe you didn't have that support. Seeing the times change where almost every coach that I interact with now is like, hey, how's girls wrestling going? We see the growth in it, and we've got a few girls on our team. It's just nonstop support.
That's awesome. So Mark, you and I have a little bit different of a view because we're not in a club, for the season, and we're not doing the day-to-day and driving and making sure we're doing all those things. From the start of this, I want to say this rise in women's wrestling, which started in Central Ohio. It really did. What was your perspective, and what did you see, and how did you start to not having that inside track start to see, oh my goodness, this is taking off?
I think Vanessa used their support, advocacy. I think for me, there have always been girls who have wrestled since I was a kid. I probably wrestled when I was in what do you call that? Youth league. I probably wrestled 2 or 3, maybe 4 girls, going to various tournaments. When I got into middle school, I wrestled 2 girls that I remember. When I was in high school, my senior year, I wrestled at the sectional tournament. I wrestled a female wrestler. So there have always been girls. I think if you ask those girls then compared to what they see now, like Vanessa, I think support is the difference. And knowing that they have people behind them, they're able to truly make wrestling their craft. Well, I'm not saying that girls before didn't truly make it their craft, but the energy behind it, I'll say this from the outside looking in, it really seems like they understand their role in this thing called wrestling. Look, we need to get better. We need to build a team. We need to make this happen. I actually had a young lady who was second in the nation. She wrestled for me for 6 years. She was the only girl on our team. There were other girls who came out, but this one stuck it out. And her main emphasis for sticking it out was I was told I couldn't. That was it, which is a great driving force. Love that. But I think had she had other members on our team and the support that girls are getting now, she probably would have had a different mindset, and it may have freed her up to truly improve, which she did great every year. She wrestled, she got better every year, but I just think that support seems to give that push from the backside that seems to be beneficial. That's from the outside looking in.
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm on the outside looking in too. And the support theme really is starting. It makes a lot of sense to me too, because like you said, when I wrestled too, sure, every once in a while you see female wrestler at a tournament. I remember, when I was in high school, still a young lady made it to the second round of the state tournament, and like the place is going nuts with the shot and everything. But when you see them through the years, it's like they're doing this all by themselves in this sport that we call an individual sport, but we know it's a team sport because you feel that camaraderie. But until you have that support, you don't feel like the team. And so you can't build until you have all that. And it sounds like you guys have just figured that out. And it's so awesome to see. Is that?
I don't know if we figured it out.
Well, you figured out how to get further than anyone else has.
I don't know.
It's a work in progress. I mean, we're working on it.
Okay. Well, then that leads me to a good question then. In starting this up and getting from where you were when you started to where you are right now, what are some of the biggest hurdles, whether they were real or perceived, that you had to overcome in order, to get a state tournament, next year, get a district tournament, then a state tournament? I mean, what were the things you had to overcome? And that can go, Brian, why don't you go?
Or you mean on the statewide level? Are you want to like not our team, but like the
about
state?
Your team first of all. What did you have to do? Or was it state first and then team, or did you?
Well, when we heard the state was going to happen, then we built the team.
Okay.
Because that's a nice carrot to dangle that you can. I mean, you want to have something you're shooting for.
Okay.
So that's where we went with it. Vanessa, you or me?
Go ahead, Brian.
So we've been thinking. Vanessa and I talk a lot, and I do want to shout out the other, like in Central Ohio. We also have Marysville, who is loaded. They're so, I mean, obviously Marysville. I know that Inside the Circle always picks them to finish a lot lower than they do, but they're good. I mean, they're good. They won state last year. They got almost every kid back. I mean, they're the big dog right now. And then Delaware Hayes has 30 girls. So I spend a lot of time, and Vanessa spends a lot of time, and then other coaches around the state. We're talking to these men and women all the time to really. We're all trying to figure it out, because even in the district level, and I mean, I talk about this with my AD. We talk 5 times a week about it. Is same issue at Marysville, same issues at Hayes. Is we're just trying to figure out, how does this work? Do we have a head coach for the girls? Do we split it in the district? Do we split contracts? Do we split booster clubs? Those are things that are real growing pains, and all these programs that are having big girls teams have decided to make that a priority. We don't know the answer to those things yet. I mean, we know it will split eventually completely, and most of the teams kind of are split now, but we're doing a lot of best practices sharing when it comes to how do we make it work. Mat time, practice time, gear, locker rooms, the whole deal. And so I know at Orange, one thing that we knew that we had, again, like we had a really talented, experienced girl. She is now in college. So our girls have had to relearn what that team looks like without her. And we've actually had a bunch of great seniors the last 2 graduates. So it's not just Taryn, but tons of great kids, state placers all over the place. And so it's been fun and stressful and unique and interesting while they find their way. And we've come out in a way that I think is going to sustain the program for a long time. And I think for me personally, as a male, I don't have any sons. My sister's 9 years younger than, right? I have 2 sons. I don't have any daughters. My sister's 9 years younger than me. So, teenage girls is a fairly foreign concept to me. So I've spent a lot of time trying to learn and pick Vanessa's brain and talk to other female coaches in general. And so I think our program is like a lot of programs in the state that are growing. It's going to be dips and valleys. And at the end of the day, getting girls out and getting them excited about the sport, that's what's worked for us. It's like we ask them to give us 2 open mats, and we feel like they'll know at that point if this is their thing or not their thing. And that's worked out pretty well.
Interesting. Vanessa, what are some of the insights and things that you learned as you transitioned to this new role?
Really, I am new to coaching as a whole. I started coaching at Mount Vernon as a volunteer, and then I was there for a couple years and primarily coaching the boys. And then I jumped over to Olentangy Orange, and what I guess like when I started coaching, I forget that these girls have never been around wrestling. And so something that just makes sense to me, I forget I have to explain that, or like they just don't get things right away. The funny thing is, Brian picked it up, is the girls tuck their socks or tuck their pants into their socks. They pick that up so fast. They do that all the time. That's like the little things that make you chuckle. Like, I love that. But the challenge is really, I think letting the girls understand that we're building as a team, but it's bigger than them too. Sometimes when we talk about that, they get pretty stressed out. And not only are we coaches of Olentangy Orange, but Brian and I have taken on this role where all the coaches will reach out to us. We have made ourselves available, any kind of questions. So that's like a big challenge that we have, is trying to give everyone a little bit of time, but being able to focus on our team at the same time. I think that's been a big challenge for both of us. Oh, you're muted.
Yep, I'm muted. Okay. Brian, I'm going to leave you on the sidelines. I mean, Mark, I'm going to leave you on the sidelines for a second here. Brian and Vanessa, from your perspective in working with coaches and officials throughout the state and stuff, what has the perception and how has things been received by the officials that now get to officiate, wrestling matches for young ladies?
I think with the officials, it is, they've been so supportive as well. When we had our girls state tournament, there was pretty much everyone in the state, it felt like, of officials were volunteering to wanting to be a part of that. And then the second year came around and we had almost the same amount of officials just wanting to be a part of it and help grow it. Even at matches, they're, making sure the girls feel comfortable. Females are present if need be. The referees have really been accepting of more and more females coming on board.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Yeah. And, we've learned with them too, as we've, I think a big addition last year was the addition of weighing in your singlet. Mm-hmm. That changes the game. Because before you're grabbing someone's mom, you're grabbing the trainer. It's not an official. It's really not an official weigh-in. If we're honest about it. I also was a big fan of. I'm kind of old school in some ways, but I'm also I like progress. I like the hair change rule. These girls not having to even break. So like when they came away from swim caps or the caps when we started to do girls matches, we just said don't wear caps if you're wrestling girls. We didn't know if that was a rule, but nobody said anything in the first year. We just said, braid your hair. And they all braided. I've heard Sally Roberts call them battle braids, which is just an awesome name for them. Just like, I don't know if like the Vikings braided them up to kick butt, but I like the idea. Give me those. I can't do it. Maybe my eyebrows or something. Yeah. But but then going into this year, now they don't even, the hair can be in its natural state. A lot of them still braid it. But some of them just go ponytail. Some of them go like old, like Tim Vanny, just everywhere. But I think some of those adjustments, and that's a big part of that is Tyler Brooks, who's our wrestling admin. He said after that first year, and we've been working with OSA and gone around with OSA and stuff, but he was like, we need to put language in the OSA rule book right now. He's like, I don't know when we're going to sanction. This is last summer of 20, but we need to get language in right now. We need to put in weight classes. We need to put in hair language. We need to put in undergarment language. And he did. And honestly, people take that for granted, but that was a huge, huge thing, at least from my point of view, from the officials and the state admin side.
Yeah. I mean, for me too, I get to coach junior high wrestling too. And it makes it so much easier to do a weigh-in. You're not going around having to grab people, and it's just Mark, what do you got to say?
Yeah, Brian mentioned the growing pains that come with this move from a non-sanctioned sport, and as we move, we're sanctioning. And I think we have 23 across the nation, 23 states. Maybe there's more, 26. Ohio is not one of them. What is it?
33.
33. Thank you. 33 states. Ohio is not one of them. But one of the things that I was going to mention as he talked about trying to figure it out on the fly, one of the things that I noticed maybe last year was a lot of female tournaments were on Sunday. And one of the things that we're going to have to battle for is the space in the gym. And the other thing is we're talking about having coaches. Just from my outside looking in, if I'm the boys coach and I'm the girls coach and we move our girls in order to get into a gym to Sunday, I'm now working Monday through Monday and there's really not a break. So that's tough. But to the officials' point, now they're doing back-to-back days, which I know I don't get into officiating for the very reason I'd get lost in a match. I'd forget if it was second period or third period. I mean, I would forget who was, on top when they went out of bounds or something. So those guys, that's me on match number one. Those guys are doing 20, 30, 50, 75 matches in a tournament, and then they got to turn around and do it the next day. I don't know. They might not be top form is my point. So we need an entire different new crop of officiating. We need a new crop of people motivated to coach girls. Not saying we need new wrestling rooms, but we need to figure out with the boys and girls teams, who's going to have just like boys basketball and girls basketball, no different. Like, look, we got to have a system here that you guys Monday, Wednesday, Friday are early. We're late on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So whatever that looks like, to Brian's point, as far as the growing pains are concerned, it not only starts with the team and who gets the mat space and when they get it, but it also goes to the gyms for events. And then it also extends on to the officiating, who's going to be officiating these people. So at the end of the day, there are many things that we need to be, like Tyler Brooks is doing, getting ahead of the move here, yes, getting ahead of the curve. This way, if and when the sanctioning does come, things are in place that we've thought forward as best we can in order to attack things. This way, those seemingly otherwise would be bumps in the road have been flattened out at least a little. Because honestly, if I got 27 boys on my team and I got another 15 girls on my team, and it becomes a problem, they're just gonna suffer. The kids are gonna suffer, and I don't want that. I don't want any issues. And if there are issues, I don't want my kids to see it, because that's the last thing we need. Is some kid, well, we always practice at 8:00 at night for an hour, 8 to 9. I don't want that. So ultimately, my point is the growing pains. We need to find coaches, we need to find refs, and we need to make sure that coaches are talking. And I loved what was stated about Shawn Andrews, coach for Marysville, and Kevin Riemann, the coach for Delaware Hayes. They're able to talk best practices. What do we got going on here? What do you got going on that we can steal? And so if coaches can stay together, all the time, yeah, hopefully that thing can happen.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like there's a lot of cooperation and collaboration, and the best idea is never just one person's idea. It's a whole bunch of people coming together and sharing information.
Except when we duel.
What's that?
Yeah. Except when we duel.
Yeah. We won't share our lineups then, but Mark, I think you had a really good point to me, at least to me. And the thing is maybe now that these women are being given the stage and able to compete, and they're being represented, and they're able to represent themselves, representation right now it maybe, you'll have those elite athletes that are going to go on and wrestle at these D1, D2, D3 wrestling schools that are opening. You'll have some ones that are going to go to college and pursue their professional career. And you'll have some that are, man, I really miss wrestling. There's still something for me. Maybe officiating is the thing for them to do so they can stay close to it. But I think one of the things we'd have to do in order to, because this stuff takes time, right? We're just trying to get young male officials right now, and it's hard, right? Is what could we do as kind of a mentorship for maybe some of these female wrestlers that, hey, I'm not going to go wrestle at college, but maybe I want to look into this. How could we maybe get them exposed to it so that we could, get these interested athletes?
I got a couple ideas that I've been in my head about women's officials and officials in general. Yeah. I think that's a bigger concern than space or coaching, because if OHSWCA sanctions, Schools that have a large number of girls, to be brutally honest, they'll be required to meet those needs of them because it's a separate sport. Okay, so having a couple other contracts, figuring out gym space just like basketball and football and soccer. I mean, like, I get that some coaches would give pushback, but like other sports are doing it. And I'm sure in the 70s when girls basketball was added, or that soccer, I'm sure these were growing pains everyone's gone through. And there's a lot of things that could be done. Girls could practice at the middle school after the middle school, or you have a lot of ways that can make it work. I do think the officials is the biggest concern. Now, I feel pretty strongly that one of the things that has allowed us to have some numbers, and then also Marysville and Hayes and Harrison and Mason and Lutheran West is, and Vanessa can speak to this in much more detail than I have. And she came up wrestling with the guys, but she's coaching a girls team, is if we practice with the boys, intermixed practice, the first year we did some split and we practiced in the same room as them, but two separate pods kind of. We practice completely separate now. We're not in the room with them at all. That has drawn girls out. If we said right now, you're going to be on a guy's team, you can still wrestle girls, we're going to practice with the guys, we'll probably have 5 girls. Maybe 10. I don't know. But I feel that if we did officials classes that were female only, taught by a female official or taught by a male official that's not going to come in there and talk down to them and be playful or be, pick an
professional.
Yeah. Right. And I don't mean like hitting on them or anything. I just mean like, if you have a female coming in that's wrestled for 2 years, she's not going to have the knowledge that a 10-year wrestler is. That's it. Okay. But she can learn enough to start to officiate middle school and be okay in a few years. And so one or two, we have a couple grads that have 1 or 2 years experience. I think they'd be awesome officials. They would probably be more likely to go into an officials class that was women only. You could get some moms, you get some ex-mat stats, you could get some bunch of ex-wrestlers. I mean, there's a lot of girls graduating in Ohio now that have wrestled that are not wrestling in college. I think you could get them. And maybe it's a pipe dream. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, but that's my take. I feel like that would be a more inviting experience for your officials class. I think that would open the doors in the same way an all girls open mat would open it. And I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Vanessa, what's your take?
No, I feel like females would have a little bit more confidence going into it and not feeling so judged, because we are in a male dominant sport. That's the sad truth. But I think that if there is an offer for an all females officiating clinic, I think you would have more female interest in it.
All right, you've got my wheels spinning. So I like that idea. It makes complete sense to me. Mark, does it make sense to you too?
Yes, it does. And I think there's two sides to this coin. I think this is Mark Niemann speaking for Mark Niemann. I would want anyone and everyone to be welcomed into this sport, period. If you're a female, and I think Brian's point is spot on in the fact that I don't need to be talked down to. I don't need other people to be talked down to, especially if they're coming in to be a part of the sport. Like, that is a terrible attitude to have. As an individual, as a human being, you should be treated with respect. And so, but if you did get together, and Brian's point is clear, I believe wholeheartedly that if they have to practice with boys, they might get 5. But if they tell them it's only girls. It's only girls. And I'll tell you how I know that's true, that they would have more people, because we sell to freshmen. Listen, we will only make you wrestle other freshmen, kids who are just coming into the sport just like you. If you do real well at the freshman level, we will ask you if you want to go to a JV tournament. It's that simple. You don't have to, but if you find yourself beating all these freshmen, go to a JV tournament. So what's the sell? You're going to be with peers. You're going to be with people who are right with you. So, and that's a selling point, because we all want that zone of proximal learning. The idea of, look, I don't need calculus to a 3rd grader. They're not going to get it. However, if I can get them to a point where, hey, I can understand this, and I can excel at this level, maybe I can go a step further and I can push my boundaries a little bit. So I love the point, Brian. It's phenomenal. And Bryce, this is on you. It is on you. You're going to have to come up with some female officials here, bud.
Hey,
that's your job now.
I like a good challenge. I don't know if I'm going to, but I can network. Yeah, I mean, and here's why I believe 100% what Brian says too, is because when you're talking to junior high kids, me trying to get them to come out and wrestle, if I had enough seventh graders to say, hey, look, if you come out, you're only wrestling with the seventh graders, I guarantee they'd be more likely to do that than go and have to wrestle against the eighth graders too, just because in their mind, right? And also the other thing is we have a weird uniform that we wrestle in too. So when you're going out to junior high kids and saying, hey, do you want to try something new for the first time in your life on a mat in front of hundreds of people, and by the way, here's what you got to wear, that's tougher than when you start them really young, right? And so what I found just in the last 5 years is like, if you can say, hey, we have a two-piece, that makes more people even more comfortable to wrestle than a singlet too. So it's really finding out what is, at least in my opinion, and it sounds like, Brian, you found it there, is like, what really is the barrier that's keeping this thing from happening? And how can I move as many bricks away from that wall to make it, easier for these people to join? So I love it.
Right. And I think it's the gateway to it. We don't want to be gatekeepers to keep people out of our sport. And someone's probably listening to this and thinks, well, it's going to be tough on the mat officiating anyway. You might as well get tough now. But the entryway can be easy. Staying in can be hard. That's okay. Hard's good. Challenging is good. Pushing yourself's good. Being challenged, all that stuff's good. But an egress in is the right move. And I bet if we had a women's officiating class that was open to 16 and over, I think we see a lot of post grads. Maybe two people show up. I don't know, but like, who knows? Right now, like 0 are showing up. So,
and it'd be interesting to hear. By
the way, the girls love singlets. They're
okay.
We had Jersey Day at our school, and they wore their singlets. And they're also like guys. Like, they're adopting their characteristics, like Oswalt said. They come walking in the middle of my 11th period class in singlets, like messing with stuff on my desk, moving my stuff around, trying to take a picture. I'm like, what are you doing? What are you? But it's kind of cool, though, to be honest with you.
Well,
they're weird wrestlers, just like the fellas.
Yeah, it takes a special person for sure. And I think one of the things I'm going to be interested in doing is learning more about what some of the other states are doing, especially the 33 that have sanctioned female wrestling, because I know, like you mentioned, I think was it you, Brian, or Vanessa mentioned that you kind of did what Michigan did with their state tournament first. And one of my first shows that I got to do here is with a Michigan wrestling official. And he started in high school becoming an official. He did a mentorship. They didn't have to take a class in Michigan. You just have to have a mentor official. And then eventually they test your mechanics and everything. And then you can take the class. But they've reduced all the barriers there too. So that's a model that I think has worked there too. So maybe that's something else we can explore. But I like the idea that it sounds like you guys have been thinking about these different things a lot for quite a while, and it's good to get some of these out. Vanessa.
Yeah, something that we're incorporating at Orange is I think it's going to help build the confidence of the girls, is kind of making them help out with the youth program. We now we have a dad that stepped up and is taking on building a girls youth club at Olentangy Orange. And so having these girls volunteer their time to help coach, they're going over the fundamentals, they're having to think about it. And so I think that's going to help either build coaches and officials.
That could be a game changer, because at least from what I see, on the boys' side too, it always starts with the biddy club. Like, obviously you have to start somewhere, but if you have a really strong biddy club, then you see it in the junior high in a few years, then you see it in high school, and then you just see it every year. It's not recruiting, it's reloading, right? So that's awesome. The other thing too is I'm just trying to imagine me being, a little kid again. And do you remember how cool it was when you'd see the high school wrestlers and they'd come and after practice they're all sweaty and they're like, hey, here's how to hit a half. Can you imagine being a little girl and seeing the girl that you look up to that's a returning state placer teaching you how to hit your first single leg or double leg? I mean, that's pretty awesome. That's awesome.
the gentleman that's running our girls' youth is Josh Wynn. He was my heavyweight at Orange, maybe 2008 to 10. So he brought his daughter up when we had a girls' practice open mat one night on Sunday. He wasn't sure he was going to do it. He was pretty sure, and he brought her up. He's like, she does dancing and she does gymnastics. So he brought her up, and he texted me that night and was like, her mouth was hanging open. He's like, I'm in. All right, let's do it. So we got a K-5 program, girls, and we got a 6, 7, 8 club program. And so, getting the right people in place there, which I feel like we have the right people in place. Making it fun. The little kids, I think, just like bitty boys, is it should be fun. It should be skills-based games. Matches are fine. I don't know if you need a match when you're 6 or 7, but whatever. Go out there and roll around, pin some people.
Yeah, I don't know.
20 to 18.
I don't know if you need to compete that early either. I mean, Sam Askren, Jake Herbert, all those guys have some great theory. Andy Rovat have some great theories about that. All right,
it's fine if you want to do it. I just don't think it's essential.
Yeah,
if you want to do it, that's fine. I don't think you need to go to Tulsa when you're 5, but whatever. Go to Tulsa.
They're lucky if they can even know how their bodies moves, right, or how they control their hips and stuff. One of the last question I want to have for all you guys on here, and it's not just a one and done here, but over the last 5 years now, because the Olympics, not this last one, but the one before, was 5 years ago now, there has been a lot of progress in women's wrestling, and there's been quite a few historic moments, and sometimes that have just been like, that's going to be awesome for the sport. That was just awesome. And I just want to hear each of you, one of your top moments. It doesn't have to be the top one, but it could be at Olentangy Orange. It could be at the high school tournament in another state. It could be watching the Olympics. It could be what just happened yesterday. But name the moment that you're like, man, this is really good for the sport. And Mark, why don't you go, please?
Yeah, no problem. I'm trying to think of the exact. It's Helen Maroulis won it in 2016, if I'm not mistaken. She hit a attempted slide by to a foot sweep, maybe. That was legit. That was absolutely fantastic. And this, I as an American, I'm looking at an American flag right now. But Japan's bottom weights, they are so dynamic. They are so good. I think to myself, okay, my son's 126. He'd have to wrestle one of the. It would be rough sledding. Those girls are freaking hammers. And I say this all the time. Those girls are hammers. But when Maroulis did what she did, that was legit. And then I just got onto the World Team Trials, and the Joker was able to upend Winchester. And I'm watching that thinking to myself, that I love Jakara Winchester. I think she's awesome. I love all of our girls wrestlers. They're great. You have the second crop coming up and beating the first. Now, the team that's there now for the world team, I think every subsequent match moving forward is going to get tougher and tougher. I mean, was it Kennedy Shields?
Blades.
Blades. Sorry, Blades. I mean, that girl is a freaking beast. Good. So everybody who is in the spot now, someone's going to be coming up behind that is going to be even tougher than they were when they were that age.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And I did a little fist pump when you said the Joker, and that's not anything against Jakara, but gosh, that last time they wrestled, I think it was the week that she lost her mom,
Yeah. Was that her?
Yeah.
No, she wrestled She lost to Maroulis.
Yeah,
but she lost to Maroulis. But I'm saying now
she dropped the weight. Yeah. She dropped down to 53.
Yes.
But for her to make the team,
that was some heart, man. Oh my Lord! Yeah. If that didn't get you in the fields, I don't know who you are.
Hey, is that the one who was apologizing at the end?
Yes.
Oh.
So those are my two moments. I'm just giving you. You stole my first one, and that was my second one. So Brian, you want to go?
Girls wrestling.
I in 2004 was my moment. I had that was the first year we had the Olympic team, okay, for women, and I had there was an article in People magazine, and if you can see the shot, I'm almost sure it was People. Yeah, it was all four of the women. It was Patricia Miranda. We had Taylor O'Donnell. It was at 121. Sarah McMahon was at 138, and Cara Montgomery was at 158. And they were standing on a mountain or something in their gear, laughing, and it looked like. And I thought, these these women are good. And I mean, I read the story and it had their bios and it was like a movie. You had women from all different walks of life. I mean, not to put really all different ethnicities. You had a white woman, an Asian woman, a Latina woman, and a black woman. You had all different weights, all so good. And their stories were unique and different. And there were some threads of sadness that wove into each of their stories, something that pushed them to that next level. And I read this and I was like, it's pretty cool. And that next year we started to take our group of girls at West High School to tournaments. And we would go up to Mount Vernon where Vanessa wrestled. And they used to run a little state tournament that was pretty solid. It was tech and fools all over the place. But, and I remember thinking when I'll send you guys this photo later. It's amazing. It's just, that was it, man. I was like, that was pivotal. And of course, Helen's amazing. So
yeah, it's awesome. Please send that photo for sure. Vanessa?
For sure.
Brian, you stole mine.
I'm sorry.
That's awesome.
I've got a few though. So I think in 2004, I qualified for the Olympic team trials, and just to be a part of it and wrestling next to these females. And then I got to go out to the Olympic Training Center that summer in 2004. And I was in a training camp with them. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Like, you can actually achieve your dream. Like, winning an Olympic gold wasn't obtainable for females before 2004, and 2004 was like that monumental moment. And so it was really cool. I think that was, and all those women are just outstanding individuals in themselves. And then we fast forward to this year. I was just I was staying up till midnight, waking back up at 2 a.m. just to watch all the matches. And I'm sweating and all into them. And the personalities of all of these females that have been on these teams, there's not one downside that I can say. They have been advocates. They have been leaders. They have been role models to these females. They speak, they go out and they teach these girls. It's just it gives me goosebumps just how great these Olympic and world teams have been. I don't know. It's just this past Olympics, it's just to see where in 2004, where it started to this Olympic team. It's pretty awesome. Not to mention that there was only 4 weight classes back in the day. And now, it's all even 6.
And you were there at the start of it. That's awesome. And I'll take one more step further. Tamara Stock mentioned when she came back, she made sure her mom got her food truck too with her winning. So, I mean, these women are just amazing. And they've only had 4 Olympiads. That's nuts. So my goal, I hope, is it doesn't take that long for women's wrestling to take off like that in Ohio. But a lot of ground can be made up in a short amount of time there. I want to thank you all for your time. I know you're all very, very busy, but I do have one more question for you. And so this is going to go out next week. If there's one thing that anyone that sees this video on social media or wherever they see it, if there's one thing that they can do to help move us closer to sanctioning women's wrestling in Ohio, what would that be? Or what can we all do to show our support and try to push towards that goal? Mark,
I'll go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Vanessa. Yeah.
My thing is, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to encourage a girl. Don't be afraid to encourage even a parent or a past sibling to help out, to step up, to, help build a team as well. Or, just having a couple females come out. Don't be afraid.
Awesome. Thank you. Brian?
I think I'll just give you something really functional. Go to Wrestle Like a Girl's website, go under resources. There's a PDF there called, I think it's called Best Practices. It's a clickable PDF that was worked on last summer. I was part of the crew that worked on it, but honestly, I didn't do much. I just learned and listened and learned a ton from some really experienced coaches of girls across the country. It's a pretty comprehensive thing. It goes through training, ways that you communicate differently. I mean, we're different. Men and women are different, you just how you communicate differently, health things, weight cutting, the whole gamut. it's a pretty sweet resource, and it's clickable, and you go to takes you a bunch of different sites, and honestly, it's a one-stop. Wrestle Like a Girl is the real deal. If anybody hasn't experienced Sally Roberts, you got to have her, because she's done, when we look around the country at high schools and colleges adding, she's the cog. She's one of the main cogs. There's other USA Wrestling, NWCA, but tons of people, but she doesn't take no for an answer. It gets things done.
Okay, so wrestlelikeagirl.com is where people can get that PDF with all those answers in. All right, I'm going to make sure that we share that from Technical Explanation Show. All right, Mark.
I would say, am I muted? Okay. I would say and I say this about all wrestlers. Female wrestlers have to be the biggest advocates for their sport. They need to be the biggest voice. So if Delaware Hayes knows they're wrestling Olentangy Orange, Delaware Hayes has to make it a mission that every kid tells 2 people and gets 2 more people to come. We have to, number 1, be our biggest supporter, our own biggest supporter, number 1. Number 2, we have to, I just lost it. No, we have to add value to our school. That was it. We have to add value to our school. As a school program, we have to add value. We cannot just always be taking. If we're not giving more than we're taking, then we're not doing it right. That's true for boys and girls. So, but the girls, be the biggest cheerleader. Like, truly try to get people to your dual meets. Be a part of a team. Do what you can. And I would think that, I don't know, this is just my own version of Brian Nicola's pipe dreams. If I see energy, I will be attracted to it. It's just the way it is. I mean, in the sport of wrestling, if I see people are moving, I will be a part of it. I was invited, and I did go to the Miami East versus Olentangy Orange dual meet. I was invited there, and I went, and I'm glad I did. It was a great event from start to finish. So again, if there's energy, I'm attracted to it. I'm sure others are. And be your team's biggest cheerleader and really try to get people out.
So Mark, you're telling me you need more energy than you already carry around?
I guess not, but
I'm just messing with you, man. That's
it
awesome.
Is great to see. Yeah.
Hey, this has been great. I'd appreciate if you guys just stick around after the recording here so we can just catch up really quick. Thank you so much for being on. I'm looking forward to the season, and hopefully this isn't the last time that you're on the show. So
thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Let's start there. Where did your wrestling story start? How old were you? Do you remember?
Yeah, actually I do. I can remember the first time I went to a biddy practice. I was 5 years old, and in kindergarten, Clyde did not have a biddy program at that time. We were talking like 1985, 1986 in there. And so we went to the Fremont YMCA, and that was one of the first places around that even had it. So I went with a couple buddies and went over and got my butt whipped quite a bit and wasn't quite sure, wrestled in one tournament that year, didn't get any wins, but got second place trophy, bye to the finals, which was fun. So,